come around to say hello. One-on-one, I'm so fly. You took a nosedive. Careful when you play on my level. For you, it's so. Hey, hello.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra. Flip the script.
Hello, Moto.
Suhel Seth, I want to ask you, should there be serious repercussions for those who raised this hue and cry, wiped off investors' money? Vivek Srivastava with impunity says, so what if the stock market fell? So what if investors' money just went down the tube? Hard-earned money of middle-class India went down the tube. Of course, Vivek Srivastava ko farak nahi padta, Congress party ko farak nahi padta. But do you think time has come that people of this country demand that these people should pay the price, and they cannot get away with impunity of making such charges on the back of dubious firms and wiping out India's wealth?
So let me begin by responding to Tehseen Poonawalla, who's kept using the word structural. The biggest stock market scams and manipulation of the markets happened under the Congress regime. Whether it was Harshad Mehta, whether it was Ketan Parekh, they happened at that point in time. Please understand the genesis of the Securities and Exchange Board of India. SEBI was created because the primary investors in our stock markets needed protection. Number two, Vivek Srivastava, who is normally very logical, is now comparing Hindenburg to a media house. Media houses don't profit. I mean, most media houses don't profit from negative news or false news or fake news. Here, Hindenburg has clearly established itself, and it's a known fact, they haven't hidden it from anyone, that they are short sellers. So they had a motive in putting out whatever they did. The shutting down of Hindenburg is not an attribution to, someone is right, someone is wrong. There was and there remains a clear anti-agenda stance across the globe. They are envious of the progress that India is making. They are envious of the economic power that India has now got. And they are jealous of the fact that we can continue to be who we are. Now come to conglomerate monopolies. Look at the Adanis. A port doesn't take 4, 5, 6 years. It takes 12 years to build. These businesses began under a Congress regime. But I'm not stupid enough to say that the Congress was in cahoots with a particular conglomerate. All of this is for India. Please don't use words like monopolies when you don't understand. Each of these businesses is tendered. Each of these businesses is in the open public domain. Each of these businesses is liable to scrutiny by courts. What happened with Hindenburg? You went to the Supreme Court of India. Now, yesterday, Rahul Gandhi has also dismayed us by saying he has no faith in the Indian state, of which the Supreme Court is a part. But let that be. You went to the Supreme Court. You had an investigation. The Supreme Court said there is nothing of substance in the Hindenburg report. You still didn't believe it. Hindenburg goes up in flames. Now you say, oh, they'll be back in 6 months, as if you are privy to their business plan. The reality is as follows. Indians are the biggest enemies of themselves when they choose to be. The entire media, sections of the media, sections of the so-called liberal wokes, went hammer and tongs saying, oh, look, India has a structural fallacy. What you did were two things. Not only did you wipe out $150 billion, you also wiped off the faith of international investors in the Indian stock market and in the Indian economy. That is a bigger crime than what you have done. Now to answer Navika's question, what will happen? Sadly, Navika, the defamation laws in our country suck. They are miserable. Otherwise, in any other country, people would have taken them to the cleaners. And people would have taken those people within our country who were creating this kind of an absolute brouhaha, saying, oh, the markets have been capitalized and the markets have been captured. I think it's a great vindication for India. I'm not even talking about a conglomerate. It's a great vindication of India's so-called, as Tehseen uses, structural efficiency. Because what has happened? You have seen that the Indian economy has bounced. The share prices of conglomerate A or B have bounced back. Look, the primary investor has faith not because the company is Indian, but because the businesses are robust. And we are seeing that these businesses are improving. These businesses businesses are contributing. And some of these businesses are
You
what I
write
would
up the
call
loans of
national
Anil
assets.
Ambani and you
When
say
you
the
talk about,
businesses
one
are
minute,
robust.
I didn't interrupt you. Vivek, when have you got this recent habit of interrupting people? I've
No,
never
I'm not
interrupted
interrupting
anyone.
you.
No, this is a recent habit you've
What about
developed.
Anil Ambani's
I think
writing
this
of
must be
loans?
due to the winter flu. Let me finish.
No, I'm
My
not.
point
not
here is,
recent.
my
Suhel,
point
let me assure you, Suhel, it's not a recent habit.
Yeah, please
I've
comment
never
on
seen him
Anil
interrupt
Ambani
before. He was
also.
always well behaved. You see, Ashok Mitra, who was a famous communist,
I'm
was the only
requesting-
person who said, "I'm a communist, not a gentleman." I never imagined that he would use this sobriquet for himself. Vivek, that is. So anyway, I'll just end by saying, and you've got Rajiv on the program, there is and remains a clear anti-India cabal across the world, more so in America. Funded, fueled by George Soros or whoever the hell it is. But the reality is, India does not need certificates of structural control from America, which, by the way, has had a scam every decade. What happened with Lehman Brothers? What happened with the crash? What happened to Bernie Madoff? What happened to Mike Milken? So let America not teach India about values and structure.
What happened to
and
Lehman
stock markets.
Brothers?
They're a bunch of rogues, and I'm
What
glad
happened
one
to Goldman
has gone
Sachs?
out of business. Now Vivek, interrupt.
Yeah, somebody mismanages his business and the
Well,
stocks
let me
crash
get
and you are
in.
trying to
Let me
defend
get
them.
in Rajiv Malhotra.
that
Rajiv
business is
Malhotra,
profitable.
Vivek Srivastava,
You have not
why don't you
commented
take
on
a
Mr. Anil
chill
Ambani's
pill
bad
simply
debts being
because
written off.
every single issue on
Anil
which
Ambani
you
ke
wanted
loans
to
write-off
corner
हो रहे हैं,
the
4,000
Prime
crore,
Minister
40,000 crore, कोई नहीं बोलेगा।
has fizzled out on its own. आप ऐसा है, आप अगर एस्ट्रोलॉजी में मानते हैं ना, तो आप थोड़ा सा अपने सितारे दिखवा लीजिए, क्योंकि nothing is going your way anymore. Modi is back for a third term. Hindenburg has wound up shop. None of your charges have worked. So kindly go back to the drawing board. Go back to the drawing board and think of another strategy, if at all you use any of your own thinking faculties, because these days you have outsourced everything to George Soros and organizations like Hindenburg. Try and find your own thinking cap, wear it and try and make something of a sustainable attack on the Prime Minister, which is absolutely indigenous, thought by you and investigated by you. But let me get in Rajiv Malhotra. Rajiv Malhotra, I want to ask you, Hindenburg shut shop soon after Congressman Anderson's announcement that came shortly after the Republican, when the Republican congressman requested the U.S. Department of Justice to preserve all documents and documentations related to the investigations involving Adani and his companies, coinciding with the transition of the Trump administration into office. Do you see anything common? Do you see a larger game plan for which the Indian opposition parties were used?
So thank you very much for inviting me. Let me back off and give a totally different context in which I'm going to present my facts. I'm US based for the last 55 years. I'm not an expert on Indian politics, but I am an expert on United States politics, past, present and future. And I'm going tomorrow to the Trump inauguration, where I've been invited for 3 days, because besides the swearing in, there's about 5 very, very strategic VIP only invited banquets and galas where I hope to meet some people to understand these phenomena further. But let me just tell you this, that with the arrival of people like Kash Patel, head of the FBI, he's a nominee and likely to be confirmed, and the arrival of many other people like Rubio as the new Secretary of State, totally overturning Secretary Blinken's use of the State Department against India and other things, including in Bangladesh. With this shift, it is highly likely that there are people running for cover. I mean, you've seen how Mark Zuckerberg has suddenly become a Trump fan while being one of the worst critics, and similarly Jeff Bezos. They're all sort of giving millions of dollars, and some of these banquets I've invited to are actually funded by these people. So there is a huge shift that people in India need to understand. They need to understand the American politics, why Hindenburg was targeted in this way against India, who was behind it, what did these people have to do with the overthrow of the coup in Bangladesh, which is actually the case. There's similar people, similar, there is the Clinton Foundation, which groomed Yusuf Muhammad. They gave him all these awards, got him all these awards, Muhammad Yusuf. So they have a role. Yes, you're right. They have a role in this. The Bangladesh coup, which is actually a coup, they had a role in this. And Soros is one of the funding people, but so is Pierre Omidyar, who has been removed, or he's decided to get out of India. We wrote a book on him, this book, Snakes in the Ganga, and he and there's a whole chapter on Omidyar, and he within a month or two decided to pack his bags and leave. So the conspiracy, that is the origin of the conspiracy, is American politics. The effect of the conspiracy is in India and Indian politics. But the discussion should start on why is this happening in the American politics, and what's the likely shift with the new administration. So the new administration is anti-woke. That is the platform on which they ran. That is what the mandate is from the entire country, whether it is China, whether it is the southern border, whether it's all these weaponization going on. So people like Hindenburg are on the run. This is my theory, but I'm going to find out by Tuesday when I'll be back. I'll have a different perspective, because I'll be part of several conversations in Washington on these very issues. So some people in the Democratic Party is splitting. There's the civil war going on between those who are switching over because they've had enough of woke. They're shutting down DEI, the diversity, equity, inclusion, that kind of nonsense, which, by the way, has entered Indian industry. Indian industry is very proudly, all these corporate people in India are into DEI in a big way to suck up to the Western and the American, champions of this kind of movement. So in the Democratic Party, there are those who are jumping out of DEI very quickly. Every day, new companies are announcing, like Walmart announced they're going to not have DEI, and so on. And those who are hardening their ultra-left position. So the Democratic Party is having this ideological civil war. And you are seeing some people like Hindenburg wanting to get out, wait for 6 months, see where the dust settles, and then maybe re-enter the market in some other incarnation, some other avatar or whatever. They might do that. So you need to understand a few things. One is that if you look at this as an American originated thing, which it is, you have to look at why. And what's the global ideology of certain people in this country to intervene, whether it is, they are the ones who actually also overthrew the previous Ukraine democratically elected president, which allowed the current Ukraine president to come into power. Omidyar was one of those guys into this, and the CIA helped him. Okay. So this weaponization of the Justice Department, of the FBI, of the CIA, all masterminded by the State Department, because the State Department manages the policy, the strategy, and these guys go and implement it. And people like Hindenburg are just one of several think tanks. They are the back office people who do all this mischief. So there's a new thing, the new situation in the U.S., and I would say one of the most important persons that people in other countries, including India, must take note of is Rubio, because Marco Rubio is a new, completely different thinker, likely to be confirmed as head of the State Department. And you have to sort of see where he comes out.
But the fact is, while this must be happening in America, the fact is also that they found alliance partners right here in India.